welcome to another edition of Movies That Move Me. I'm your host, Elijah Winfrey, and yes, I got a Sharpie for no reason other than I like to talk with something in my hands. But anyway, we're here to talk about Tron Legacy, okay? The sequel movie to Tron from 1982. Now, we had to wait a long time for this one, but I would say it was worth the wait. It was worth the wait, in my opinion. So let's talk a little bit about Tron Legacy because for me, this movie was really, really cool. It came out, by the way, because I always like to put the release dates in here. November 30th of 2010, it came out in Tokyo. Then in the US, it came out December 17th. So technically a Christmas time movie, if you would. Christmas time release date, I should say, for Tron Legacy. This movie obviously has got Jeff Bridges in it. It's got Garrett Hedlund. It's got Olivia Wilde in it as well, and a bunch of other folks. So here's my thoughts on it initially. Obviously, I told you last episode, Tron, my favorite all-time sci-fi franchise, even more than Star Wars. And a lot of people who know me say, Elijah loves Star Wars, and I do. But Tron to me is just a little bit better, okay? Just a little bit better in my opinion. Tron Legacy, I think, took everything that was right about the 1982 Tron film and with the latest technology was able to amplify it on a wide scale. That's one of the things I think that a lot of people talk about when it comes to this movie is just how crisp the CGI looks in this film. And I know that CGI gets a lot of crap, especially nowadays when we're hearing about how visual effects artists are not given a lot of time to do what they need to do. You know, studios want it done and they want it done yesterday, right? And that don't work when it comes to visual effects. And maybe studios are starting to learn that a little bit, right? But a lot of people look at this movie from 2010 and they go, wow, that was actually some really, really solid CGI, the way they made it look. And again, the 82 film, they did the best of what they had. You know, it wasn't like they had all the bells and whistles to be able to operate with that, you know, folks do now, and certainly folks did in 2010. But Digital Domain, I was looking it up prior to recording this episode. Digital Domain are the folks who did the special effects for Tron Legacy. I thought it was the folks over there at the Skywalker Ranch, you know, George Lucas's team, that did the effects for this film, but it was not. It was actually Digital Domain that did the majority of the effects work. Now, the folks over there at Skywalker Ranch did have a little something to do with the movie, as particularly with the trailer, I believe it was, but the actual film itself, Digital Domain was the company on that. And I want to give them love because I feel like a lot of times we don't do that when it comes to movies. You know, we always look at CGI and then we complain about it, right? Well, when it's good, we should raise those companies up and say, hey, that's really cool that they did that, you know. But like I said, for me, that was the big thing, like, is just seeing all that could be done, right? Because we saw it in the 82 film with what they had at the time, and then this 2010 film, especially with the cyber bikes that are in there and how they have, like, you know, obviously with the cyber bikes from Tron, they would always have like the color that comes out of the motorcycle as it's driving, right? You know, and in this film, those things look super cool. And so I felt like a kid again when I was watching this movie. I guess is what I'm trying to say. I felt like a kid again watching Tron Legacy and just seeing the special effects and just how far they were able to push it. Okay. Now, with that being said, Jeff Bridges, they CGI'd him, right? Like they tried to do a younger version of Jeff Bridges. And that part of the CGI, maybe not so great. But you know what? It was the kind of one of the first movies to try the whole de-aging thing, which now it seems like they got a better handle on that, as we've seen in recent years with the attempts to de-age, you know, certain actors and things like that. But in this one, maybe not so great on that part. But other than that, though, like I said, the CGI to me was like really on point. The soundtrack was really good too. I don't often talk about soundtracks on this show, but the soundtrack was really solid as well. And Garrett Hedlund, and I hope I'm saying his name correctly. Yeah, Garrett Hedlund. For me, I really enjoyed his performance. You know, one of the things that I love about storytelling is when you have the hesitant hero, you know, the person that is not trying to save the day, but somebody has to, and they get thrust into it. And what do they do now that they have all this responsibility and pressure on their shoulders? So I love that when you have that in a story. And I thought Garrett Hedlund did a great job in this film portraying that. I thought Jeff Bridges obviously did a great job, but you expect Jeff Bridges to do a great job. Garrett Hedlund, at least to my knowledge, hadn't really done a ton to that point in film as far as starring roles are concerned. As far as I know, I don't have his IMDb page open in front of me right now, but I remember that being a big opportunity for him to be in a big franchise, and I think he did a great job with it personally. I also thought he could have played Batman. I don't know if he ever did audition for Batman or not, but I felt like, hey, this guy could have been Batman. And that's kind of how I saw it in this film. Like, okay, well, especially at the beginning part where he's like breaking into his own company to, implant a virus, I believe it was. That's something I could see Bruce Wayne doing, or a Terry McGinnis doing, and obviously Garrett Hedlund, he's a little bit older now. So he's not going to be doing either one of those things. But in the moment in 2010, I was like, man, this guy could be Batman. That would be pretty cool. And Olivia Wilde, one of my favorite performers. She did a great job in this film as well with the role that she had to play. Michael Sheen's in this. I mean, it really is, chock full of great performers and great performances. But like I said, the things that motivated me the most, and I don't usually work in CGI with my films, but it was like, just imagine how much you can do, like that to me was cool. Like I felt like it like reopened that door of what if, in a way that if you can dream it, we can do it, and that's really cool to me. Now, again, I don't dabble too much in CGI when it comes to my films because I'm not at that level. But that is something that in the future, I'm not saying I want to do everything CGI, but when the moment calls for it, I want good CGI. I want CGI like I saw in Tron Legacy. And again, I thought for them having a story that, needed to continue a franchise that hadn't seen a movie since 1982, I mean, that's a long gap, right? That's a long gap of time between the first film and the next installment. And a lot of times that doesn't work. Sequels don't work. This one, in my opinion, though, did. And I know there's some folks who, whenever this movie came out, they didn't realize that it was connected with something else. The younger generation didn't realize it was connected with something else. So it got them to watch two movies, because they went and they saw this and they said, oh, wait, there was something before this. Let me go check that out too. And that's kind of how I feel about like the, Top Gun Maverick thing. Everybody praised Top Gun Maverick for being able to continue the feeling of the first film years after the first film had, already been released, and the fact that it was done with different directors and everything, like, oh, how were they able to nail that feeling? Tron Legacy deserves that type of credit too. It did it first, so that's kind of my opinion on that. But again, Tron Legacy, a movie that moved me. Tron franchise, like I said, I love both of those films. I'm excited to see what they do with this third one that's coming out. Haven't heard a ton about it, but I'm excited to see like what they do with it. But again, Tron Legacy for me, that was a solid sequel effort. And again, it kind of opened the door to wonder once again. If you can dream it, we can do it. And kudos out there to all those visual effects artists who, bust their tails, day in and day out. They're working with all those deadlines that I can't even imagine trying to keep up with. And we appreciate it. I know it doesn't always work out, but we appreciate it, as speaking as a fan of movies. So Tron Legacy, a movie that moved me. I'll be back with another film next week. Hey, until then, be good to yourself, be good to others in that order. I'll see you soon.